To sleeve or not to sleeve? That is the question.
Oh my gosh.
This time on Board Games and Coffee. Welcome to Wisco Dice. Hey, yo, folks, I am your host, the Conesy with the Most, and I am joined today by...
Hey, I'm Suzanne.
And today on Board Games and Coffee, we're going to drink a cup of joe or tea or whatever we happen to be drinking, talk about whether you should sleeve or not sleeve your board games. This is a hot topic that we see all the time on various
Everywhere.
various forums and message board, Facebook and everything. What are you drinking today to start with? Let's talk about that for a second.
So this is something I do not sleeve. I take out of the sleeve to make it.
I hope so.
I
hope you're not drinking sleeves.
I am drinking a London Fog, which is basically Earl Grey tea with steamed milk, and then I put a drop of vanilla flavoring in it.
And I've got my Electric Monkey Espresso from the
Just Coffee Cooperative.
Yeah, that place. And
who's not a sponsor.
Who's not a sponsor. But it is absolutely delicious with a little bit of just a splash of Torrini caramel syrup. Oh, so good. Absolutely a treat. If you want to be like some of these folks that are on screen right now and be featured in a future episode of Board Games and Coffee, make sure you drop a comment down below and let us know what you're drinking and maybe what your thoughts are on the topic for today. We do have a major announcement.
Yes.
That will be coming at the end of this episode for our finally, and we do apologize this has taken longer than it should have, but our 400 subscriber contest. Remember we had that episode back in January where we announced it, and we were supposed to get that winner announced sooner. By the end of February and in early March. Well, here it is, early April or late April, whatever time it is now. I have no idea. And we're getting that finally announced.
So stay tuned to see if you won. The copy of was a point salad.
Yep, point salad.
Yep, and while you are waiting and watching this video, please make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you hadn't. So, you may be a future winner with a future contest that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. Now with that, let's roll into today's topic.
All right.
So
today's topic is a very controversial topic, not necessarily in this house so much, but with a lot of board gamers.
It is. And that's really the question of whether you should sleeve or not sleeve your games. So there are a number of pros and cons.
The cards in your games, most likely.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you sleeve the whole box too, but I don't really see it. I haven't seen anybody doing that. But yeah, the cards that come in the games. So I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to this question anyways, but we wanted to talk about kind of our way and approach to doing this and how we handle it for games. And hopefully that gives you some insight into what might be right for you. Because if you share some similar thoughts or viewpoints, we definitely want to know about them in the comments below.
Yep, and I should say we are looking at this with the gaming perspective, the benefits or disadvantages to it while you're playing a game. I realize there is an environmental impact that some people are worried about with the actual plastic sleeves. We're not going to tackle that today.
Yeah,
that's a whole other
concept
that goes way beyond just sleeving.
Yep, absolutely.
Just want to put that out there.
So, the biggest reason that people want to sleeve their cards in these games is to help protect and preserve them. And certainly this is not a new concept. Sports cards, trading cards, TCGs have been sleeving cards for years and years before I think we started to see it more and more happen in board games. And then, especially if you're new to board games, it's very easy to see that investment in a game or a set of games that you really like and go, oh, I need to sleeve it, or I need to add something extra to it.
Yeah,
And
it is a way of like in like what's like just making your game look a little bit blinging it out. So a way to bling out your game is by adding sleeves to it.
Yeah, I know lots of vendors will add, in crowdfunding projects and whatnot, they
Yeah.
will add things like special sleeves or cool sleeves that match the game art and all
Yeah,
that kind
that
of
have
stuff
nice art on the
for
back
extra
of them,
collectability
or
and things
even
like
just
that.
clear sleeves too. Sometimes I'll back a Kickstarter crowdfunding project, and it'll come, hey, I can get this all the sleeves I need. They're just clear ones, and hey, you know what? They want to sell me that. A lot of times I'm a sucker and take it.
So when do we feel it's necessary to sleeve our games?
So we feel it's necessary to sleeve the games when we are shuffling the cards frequently during the game. Definitely that. When those cards are a major component that is being used and used and used and shuffled to just kind of keep them in nice condition. So that is definitely a time that we sleeve the games.
Yeah, so games like Gloomhaven, Lost Ruins of Arnak,
Yes.
legendary deck builders? A lot of times we will sleeve.
Yes.
A lot of these
Ascension,
style
we're
of
sleeving
games.
that.
A lot of these style of games where you're handling and the cards, and and it very quickly you start to see damage to the cards themselves because of the amount of shuffling. That's generally when we sleeve our games.
Yeah, and it's not like we don't have a concern, at least with the individuals that we play with, that people are marking cards and you see a bend on it and you know it's coming up. It's just to protect the cards and increase their longevity. And sometimes it actually makes it easier to shuffle. Like when you have a small deck of cards of like 4 or 5, you get plastic, sleeves on it. It's a little
help,
to me, it's a little easier to shuffle it.
When we don't sleeve games is immediately when we get them.
Oh.
So we have a lot of sleeves laying around, so we absolutely could. But the idea is that we typically get a game to the table a couple of times, and if we start to notice maybe a hint of wear on the cards after they've been shuffled a bunch, like this was a very good example for how we handled Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Yep.
Right. We played that game probably 2 or 3 times, and we noticed immediately a little bit of white wear on the edge of some of the cards, particularly the ones that were in the red and green player colors, because those were the ones that we usually play, just the two of us.
I'm always green. He's always red.
And so we were like, yeah, we need to sleeve this game right away. Now, because we go about it in this method, that also means that we tend to invest in a slightly nicer sleeve.
Yes.
When we sleeve a game as well, because we're not having to try to pay for mass amounts of sleeves. We're usually, like I said, we're picking and choosing our battles a little bit and making sure that the game really needs a sleeve versus not. Like another game that we haven't sleeved, for example, that we do tend to cycle a lot of cards, and we might consider sleeving it in the future, is a game like Distilled. There are a lot of cards. You're shuffling those cards a lot in the game, but the wear and tear really hasn't been apparent after, I think we've got 8 or 10 plays now on our copy of Distilled. The wear and tear really hasn't been apparent on the cards, and we really haven't felt like there was a need to sleeve it necessarily.
Yep, another game that we haven't sleeved that we played multiple times is Ark Nova. And I think one of the reasons we don't sleeve Ark Nova, because one of the downsides to sleeving is, depending on the sleeve, it's going to be it could be real slippery. So you have things in your draw piles, they don't stand up so nicely.
Exactly.
Which is, I think, one of our hesitations also with Distilled. If we end up sleeving that, we're going to try and find sleeves that are not the real slippery, glossy ones, because you have these draw piles out there and they're tipping all over. Because we sleeved Space Base.
And
that was
Raising Robots.
And Raising Robots, which both of them I backed Kickstarter.
So Raising Robots came with the upgraded sleeve, or came with
level
sleeves.
I kickstarted.
Because of the level you kickstarted. And Space Base, I think the sleeves came with the expansion.
Oh, they may have come with an expansion. But yeah, and I was like, oh, they sent sleeves. I'm going to sleeve them.
Yep. So these were instances where we got sleeves with the purchase of the product.
Yep.
And so we sleeved it because, hey, we got sleeves that were the right amount and they were supposed to be designed for the game.
Yep.
And then in the case of like Raising Robots, this thing you mentioned about the decks being taller decks, and now the cards, they're not grippy sleeves, so they slide. And of course, I don't know what it is when you sleeve cards. There's always one side of the stack that's a little taller than the other side of the stack if they're all in the same orientation.
Just that little bit of air trapped in them.
Yep, just that little bit. And so there's always, by the time you get to the top, there's that little bit of an angle.
Yeah.
And so these were things that caused problems with actual playing these games at the tabletop, which can, when you introduce challenges to playing a game like that, sometimes that means that that's a game that turns into, do I really want to play that one because of the hassle of dealing with the sleeved cards?
Yes. I mean, one of the things we do look at if we're also sleeving a deck is, is this a game that we enjoy so much that we know it's going to get played a lot? And then
are you saying there are games in our collection that we've maybe only played once or twice?
Maybe. But it's not because they're not good games. It's because they either don't work well as a 2-player game, or they don't fit the time that we have in our regular game nights, the environment so much. Like, it's got to be a specific thing. So those games we may not sleeve. At the same time, ones that are coming out a lot, like Raising Robots, we love Raising Robots. Yep. That one we sleeved, and it's like, but maybe we wouldn't. I mean, I will probably be taking the sleeves off of it soon, because it is, even though we're playing it so much, it's just a pain.
It causes some hassle with the gameplay, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's nice to have them sleeved, right? Because you do tend to shuffle those cards a bit. Yeah. But because of the size of the draw piles, they tend to slide all over the place. So we end up, I mean, especially if you're playing that game with 6, it's kind of okay because you can distribute the draw piles and stuff like that. But it's still, the idea is that there's some really should consider how tall a draw pile is going to be. Another game that we will probably never draw or never sleeve because of this issue is Terraforming Mars. Especially when you start throwing in expansions. That draw pile becomes ridiculously huge then. And it absolutely can become problematic for trying to stay.
We don't always take out the cards you're supposed to when you do an expansion. So
we never take the cards out.
So, but yes, it's still, even if we did, it would still be very huge. But, so we're talking about them being slippery once they're sleeved. There is the issue we run into occasionally where the cards that come in the game box are sticky. Like, not sticky like someone puts chewing gum on them sticky, or sugar, but they just do not separate. So it's really easy to grab 2 when you think you're grabbing 1 or whatever. So those are games that we may be going, we really do need to sleeve these if these cards don't loosen up.
And I think the final reason, because that's part of the reason, sticky, but also if the cards are not of a very good quality. And I say this, and I'm going to call out a game that's very popular right now, and that is Heat Pedal to the Metal from Days of Wonder. I don't know if it was our copy that we purchased, or because the only times I've ever played this game is with sleeved copies of the game. And yes, I probably would have sleeved it anyways because of the amount you shuffle the cards and you handle the cards. But the card quality was so poor in this game, and no protective coating basically, or plastic coating on the cards. They were just straight off the press paper cards.
Like they forgot that little last finish.
Yep.
On them.
Which makes a playing card or a card actually, useful. And maybe there's some environmental reason. I don't know what the reason was. I know for me personally, I was very disappointed with these cards. And they, in order to be useful, because they stuck together and they didn't shuffle and they were really hard to use, the immediate answer was to put them in sleeves.
Yep.
So that's exactly we played it once when we bought it because I was super excited to play it.
We played it before sleeving it.
Got really upset with it.
And
then immediately, as soon as we were done playing it, we sleeved it because the cards were that bad.
Yeah.
So, but that could also be in the case of hey, you play a game or something like that. And again, we did play it before.
We played before we sleeved it.
Sleeved it.
Because we needed to see how the cards were going to react. And it was just the 2 of us. We weren't taking this to a convention for the first time
No.
and being like, hey, we're going to break open our brand new game and play it and
Yeah, absolutely.
show this off. No, we're going to.
It was definitely more of a, hey, we're taking our time. And we always take our time. If the game didn't come with sleeves, we're always taking our time making a decision on whether we should sleeve that or not. And those are probably our biggest considerations: is how often do we have to shuffle the cards? Do they start to see wear and tear because of that? How often do we have to, or if there's cards that have, like, say, functional issues, like they're sticky or they're just, not maybe the highest quality produced cards,
or if they're just slippery, like we have had some
or
cards that are just
or if they're like super slippery, so the sleeves slow them down. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I love linen finish on cards because that gives it just a little bit of friction. But some that are real nice and they're like a high gloss finish.
But then we also consider like how tall draw stacks are going to be, and those and factor that into whether we're going to sleeve or not sleeve a game.
Yeah, I don't know that I would ever go the route, and I know some of you do, and that's just fine. But I would never go the route of just automatically sleeving every single one of my games.
Yeah.
If I had like 2 or 3 games in my collection, that's all I had, so we were playing them all the time, then yeah, it would meet a lot of the criteria for needing to be sleeved.
So one of the and I call this almost a misconception about sleeving your games as well, is the idea that the sleeves are there to protect the cards from, say, something like a coffee or fluid spill.
Oh.
I have
that's
been around and was at a friend's house where some dark beer got spilled on a game that was sleeved. This was not one of our games. I was at somebody else's house playing their game, and I also was not the person that spilled the beer. But it was a very dark, probably barrel-aged stout or something like that we were drinking, got spilled on the cards. The opening in the sleeve became a trap for the fluid, and you couldn't get the card out fast enough before the cards started to absorb the fluids. So, like, for sleeving cards, to prevent them from, like, light spills, like a little bit of a splash of fluids, absolutely they're going to save them from that. But if you have a big spill, those sleeves aren't going to save your cards. Like, that is definitely something that's worth pointing out and knowing.
So basically, if you're worried about that, just keep drinks off the table.
Don't put the beverages on the table as we do during board games and coffee.
We don't have a game on the table. Otherwise.
Yep. Otherwise, we have wonderful cup holders.
Yes. Like all our game tables have cup holders on the side. That was something that was one of my requirements when we were looking at game tables. But that's
absolutely, again,
another
topic for a future date.
So
all right, well, my cup is run dry.
Well, I am still savoring my London fog, so we won't meet people.
Yep, I think that means it's time to wrap, though. And so thanks everybody for watching. We really appreciate it. Make sure you drop a comment in the comments below. And oh yeah, one last thing, because we told you to wait till the end of the video. We have that 400 subscriber contest winner.
Woo-hoo!
So if you are subscriber VLOCHE11, please drop us an email at hosts@wiscodice.com. The information will be in the description below, and we will go ahead and get your game of Point Salad out to you, no cost to you at all, very quickly.
Yep, congratulations.
Congratulations. Woo!
Woo-hoo, yeah, that's exciting.
All right, and with that, let's go ahead and wrap this episode up of Board Games and Coffee. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your coffee. Hey there, it's Conesy. Thank you so much for watching. We put out videos weekly here at Wisco Dice. Check out our channel for more great videos, and don't forget to subscribe. We also have more great content on our website at wiscodice.com. Of course, we do this all for you, the viewers. So please like the video if you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.